soil literacy has been decreasing or has substantially decreased in the last few generations. So less people have knowledge about soils. They might be handling soils a lot less than previous generations. And perhaps in the education system, they were getting a lot less soils compared to what they would have done previously, just because there's new subjects, there's new modules in university. So the time spent on soils is probably a bit less than our parents' generation would have had.
It's great to be back with another Environment Edge podcast, and you're very welcome to the show. From earthworm counting to burying underpants, what is the GroundTruth Project all about?
To tell us more and learn something new about soil health and this citizen science project, Dr. Fiona Brennan, Teagasc Senior Research Officer in Soil Microbiology, joins us for a chat.
I'm Cathal Summers.
And I'm Deirdre Glenn.
Your Teagasc Sustainability Advisors, and we're back for another Environment Edge podcast, number 110, and here we go.
Fiona, yourself and Teagasc are putting soil in the spotlight again. I suppose, as an advisor working around the countryside in Kilkenny and whatever, are we sometimes overlooking soil? Do you think the farmers put enough emphasis on soil and the soil health?
I think definitely not. Broadly, I mean, most of us, we would get our car serviced every year, or we get our combine or our tractor serviced every year. But if you were to ask how many farmers or gardeners had a look at their soil every year and assess soil health, probably it's quite a small number. And when you think about the importance of soil for a farming enterprise, but also for the broader planetary health, it seems a bit of an oversight that we wouldn't really keep an eye and take care of something that's so precious to our society and, of course, for our food production. So soil health, I suppose, has become increasingly important and in people's mind. That's the physical, chemical and biological health of soil that enables it to deliver a range of services. So services to the human population, but also to the wider planet. Things like sequestering carbon, storing carbon, storing and filtering our water, providing nutrients to plants. And also as a home for biodiversity, like incredibly, it's nearly 60% of our total biodiversity is in soil. So it really is such an incredibly valuable resource, an important resource. So definitely increased emphasis is needed to make sure that that resource is looked after well.
People tend to take soil samples, I suppose, like dairy farmers and beef farmers over time. That's one way of looking after soil health. So know how your pH is, applying lime, see whether it's acidic or see whether it's alkaline. That's a good starting point, isn't it, for any farmer?
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of nutrient management, that's really key, that you know what your offtake is in terms of nutrients and what's in the soil. Both from the supply to a plant perspective, but also for making sure that we're not overloading nutrients into soil, making sure that soil fertility is balanced, so we don't lose nutrients to air or to water. But there's also a broader component of soil. So it's not just all about the chemistry, but it's also the biology of the soil and the physics of the soil structure. We often describe it as a three-legged stool. And if one of the legs is down, you won't be able to sit on the stool. So you need all three. And while a lot of farmers would regularly test their soils for the chemical part, not too many would do the physical part or the biological part. And I suppose that's really what we were trying to bring in with this citizen science project that we're running at the moment, GroundTruth. And it's about getting people to look at those other aspects of soil health, making sure that they have the skills themselves to be able to look at them and know what they're looking at, and then to be able to adopt their management according to what they're seeing on the ground. And that can be a farmer or a gardener, or it can be on a school grounds, for example, or a playing field. The same principles apply, and the same skills will give you really valuable information about your soil.
Fiona, I suppose when we're talking about farming across the country, we're generally talking about production farming, where we have, the green monocultures and clovers or whatever, and we're looking to produce beef and sheep and dairy. But I suppose there's also another side to it where we have a lot of initiatives out there that we look after our, I suppose, low input pastures where, we're looking for wildflowers and meadows and hay meadows and that kind of stuff that are not maybe getting lime and are not getting P's and K's and nitrogen. Do you see much of a difference in maybe I suppose, the underground biodiversity in those plots?
We would expect quite a bit of difference. We're just beginning to generate data on those sort of sites now. We probably don't understand an awful lot about the biodiversity under those systems, but we would expect they're extremely valuable in terms of biodiversity. It's a different farming system, as you mentioned, and while the emphasis in those very productive farms is on yield or forage quality or whatever, there's a different focus in those, I suppose, more minimally managed farms. It's not that they're any less valuable. In fact, they could be fantastic for storing carbon. They're amazing for our above ground biodiversity, the amount of plant species, pollinators. So managing them in a way that I suppose protects that is really important. So we definitely wouldn't be recommending liming or fertilizing those habitats, if you like, unless I suppose the farmer has to make the decision on them. But from putting my ecologist hat on, it would be a terrible shame to lose those habitats because they're becoming incredibly rare, and there's so much value in them. So yeah, I suppose looking at the system you have and maintaining what's there in terms of habitats and trying to get that balance right between the productive function and also the other services, the carbon storage, the biodiversity, the water quality, and all those really fantastic services that those other farms that are less intensively managed provide.
Yeah, and the GroundTruth Project is, I suppose, you're literally inviting citizens to get involved and roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty to produce some research. But I suppose what inspired this kind of community-driven approach, or to produce this kind of research, or like why is citizen science on the agenda? Why is it so important?
Well, there was a couple of reasons that we decided to put in a proposal to run this project. So this project is funded by Research Ireland and the Department of Education. And it was, I suppose, an awareness that soil literacy has been decreasing or has substantially decreased in the last few generations. So less people have knowledge about soils. They might be handling soils a lot less than previous generations. And perhaps in the education system, they were getting a lot less soils compared to what they would have done previously, just because there's new subjects, there's new modules in university. So the time spent on soils is probably a bit less than our parents' generation would have had. However, we're seeing huge demand among the education system for information on soils, huge demands from farmers, from advisors, all looking for information and guidance on soil. And I think in some respects, people are interested in soils, but feel that they lack the knowledge and the skills, have the confidence to go out and look at a soil and make an assessment of it. And I think that's what really drove us to do this project, to provide information for people, provide skills for people, that no matter what your knowledge is, whether you have never studied soils in your life, know nothing about soils, or you have a lot of experience with soils, that you can follow these simple assessment tests, have a look at soil and be able to make some, I suppose, management decisions based on what you find on the assessment. It's also fantastic to get everybody involved. Like, citizen science provides a vehicle for gathering data sets that would be absolutely impossible if we didn't have the army of people across the country doing the assessments. So citizen science has been used and is being used for data collection in Ireland in a number of ways. For example, the Biodiversity Data Centre, a lot of their biodiversity data sets are coming from citizen science. So they have a certain amount of research coming from research performing organisations or from scientists, but that's really bolstered by an absolute army of people across the country that are looking in their local area at their plants, at their butterflies, at their bees, at their birds. And it really makes I suppose the reach and the knowledge base so much deeper when you involve citizens. The other thing, I suppose, is it gives citizens an insight into science. Some people have in their head, the crazy scientist with the lab coat and the goggles and the whole shebang. And I
Probably
suppose
right.
it gives people, yeah. Well, I don't know when the last time I was in a lab coat, but I suppose it gives them people an idea of the process, and they can contribute to something much larger just by doing a few small things themselves. That data can be used for a wide range of purposes, and it gives people that understanding of how the scientific process works, where the evidence comes from, and then the next step then until how that's used to make decisions.
Cathal and I have been in soil pits around the country. Cathal more so now than I. I've been his very beautiful assistant in some of the soil pits. But it's the most popular site on all of the events, I think, and the most controversial site, with debates and recommendations flying around from Cathal or from farmers. It absolutely brings like hundreds of people looking at the soil structure, look at the arrangement, the aggregates, looking at compaction, looking at the rooting structure. So like it's just fascinating. Is that the kind of thing that you're trying to promote?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. If you put a soil pit in an event, it draws people over unbelievably, people having a look, because a lot of people mightn't have the opportunity to look at soil. Those that farming in permanent pasture or whatever, they mightn't till very regularly. The tillage farmers probably have a lot more dealing with the soil. But for a lot of society, they might not have the chance. For some gardening, they might not have had a lot of chance to handle the soil. And I suppose it's just getting that awareness of what you're looking at. If you're a beginner, you go out and look at a soil, you probably see the vegetation on the top, and you see this brown bit underneath, and it all looks uniform. But then when you actually go into it and have a look at it, you begin to see the aggregates, the kind of the building blocks of soil. Then you can see, are they round? Are they angular? Are they hard? Do the roots go down through the soil? Is there evidence of soil life, earthworms, ants, centipede? A whole range of things. And really, there's so much you can learn about the soil just by looking. There are more, I suppose, advanced lab techniques that you can do. But really, 60% of what you need to know about managing your soil, you can tell from just going out with a spade and having a look. So making sure that those skills are there, and learning how to manage. Not every soil is the same. They all have different capabilities, different vulnerabilities. Learning what soil you have, and then managing in a way that I suppose optimizes those functions of soil.
What objectives has the project set out to complete, Fiona?
So I suppose we had three main objectives. One was to increase the general soil literacy and to increase the awareness of the importance of soil among secondary school students, among farmers, and among the general public. And this is quite important. There was an evaluation done of the education system in Ireland by some colleagues in the Technical University of Dublin as part of a European project. And they've had a look at the education system. And what they were saying is there's gaps in the education system, and there's a need for hands-on, accessible skills and resources that people can use. So that was, I suppose, the second objective was to give those skills to people, empower people that they have the skills, they have the confidence, they can go out to their own soils and look for these characteristics, and then on that basis make the decisions about soil. And the third objective, I suppose, was to increase the awareness among the public of citizen science projects, that you can get involved in science. And there's lots of benefits to it. It's a bit of fun. You contribute to data sets that have real value, and you get to interact with like-minded people, go along to events. So I suppose just to increase awareness of citizen science was the main three objectives, I suppose. But we also wanted to create a whole range of resources that would be there after GroundTruth is finished. So videos, fact sheets, podcasts like this one, animated videos, lessons plans for schools. So there's a whole range of resources that are in the process of being and have been built up over the project of GroundTruth, and those resources are going to be freely available for everybody as they go forward, whatever their soil interests are, that they'll be able to freely access them from the Teagasc webpage.
You've asked the people getting involved to do specific tests, so our on the ground scientists are going to carry out the tests for us. What is the makeup of it? What have you asked people to do? What have they signed themselves up for?
So we've asked people to look at 2 areas on their farm or in their school or else in their garden that have contrasting areas. So areas where you might expect, for example, soil health might be impacted. It could be under a tractor wheel. It could be a path in a school that's maybe a bit compacted. Or it could be, for example, you could do a comparison between a silage field and a headland, or a silage field and a graze field. So pick these 2 areas and do 4 simple tests. They are all very simple. There's how-to guides, step by step. You can't go wrong. And there's also an accompanying videos, so you literally cannot go wrong. I suppose you can choose to do all 4 or just a couple, depending on what your interests are. So for those that are involved in the GroundTruth Project, they're doing all 4. So the first one is an underwear decomposition test. So people get great crack out of this, but what is actually measuring is soil function. So you put a pair of cotton underwear in the ground. Cotton is made of cellulose, and it's broken down by cellulase enzymes. So soil organisms naturally have this. And by looking at the decomposition of underwear, you're basically having a look at how the soil is functioning, how active it is, how you're able to break it down. It's extremely simple. You dig in, pick up a little turf of soil, 10 centimeters down, slot in the underwear and cover back over the sod. The most important part is to mark it really well so that in 2 months' time, when you come back, a big flag or a stone or something, because once you come back in two months' time, your grass could be overgrown, and then trying to find it, especially if it's very degraded. And then after 2 months, you come back and you lift the sod and pull out what's left. So if your soil is functioning really well, you'll actually just have the elastic band left on the underpants. Everything else will be gone. If the soil is not functioning that well, you'll end up with nearly complete with no degradation. And then you score the underwear based on how much is degraded. So this can be an indication of soil health, but it's also an indication of the condition of the soil in relation to how the environment is at the moment. So, for example, those of us in the south and the east have had extremely dry summer. So in some cases, the degradation has been slowed down because the soil is just so dry. And that's not really saying that your soil is unhealthy, but it is saying that soil functions have really ground to a halt because there's just no water in the soil. But by comparing the 2 areas, you're able to compare like with like under the same environmental conditions, and then you send those data back to us. So that's the first one, and it's very, very simple. And you only really need a marker, a spade, and a pair of cotton underwear. So really, really simple. The second one then is what we call a VES, which is a visual assessment technique of soil. This is where you take a block out of soil, a block up of soil, and you just take it apart and have a look at features of the soil. So you're looking at things like, as I mentioned earlier, the aggregates. Are they round? What shape are they? What size are they? The color of the soil, how the roots are going down, how many pores there are. It's very simple. You just get your eye in on it, and it requires no specialist knowledge. And you go through a flow chart and it gives you a score of the soil. So that's really great for looking at physical health. It tells you, for example, if your soil is compacted, if you have issues with soil biology, if your roots aren't getting down, all of those really good indicators that can help you, I suppose, change your management if you have issues, or if everything looks 100%, you can give yourself a big pat on the back for doing things really well. The third test then is an earthworm test, and you can actually use the same block as you used for the VES. You literally take apart the block of soil and just take the earthworms out, give them a rinse of water, and then you can segregate them into different 3 different functional groups. So it's not species level identification, just based on their color and their shape and their size. You can divide them into, for example, the deep burrowing earthworms, or the litter layer earthworms, or the topsoil earthworms, and then get a count. So again, very simple and fun, because you get to have a look at earthworms, and who doesn't love an earthworm? I know you had Olaf Schmidt on recently as well, and yeah, but they're so important for the structure of soil, for nutrient cycling. And what's really fantastic is you can pick them up in your hand and have a look at them, and it gives you direct information of what's happening in your soil. And then the 4th and final one is called a fit count, and that's a flowered insect time count. And we are doing this project in conjunction with the Biodiversity Data Centre, and this is the method they use for citizen science for pollinators. They have a great app developed along with the pollinator network, and it really gives you an estimate of what the pollinators are in your area. So some people ask, well, why are we doing this in a soil's health? It's pollinators not in the air, but actually a lot of these pollinators live in soil. So they're part of soil biology. They're really important for pollination functions, but also soils don't exist on their own. They're part of a full ecosystem. So it makes a difference, the biology around them, what's in the hedges, what's in the wetlands, the other things around those also impact the soil biodiversity. So this is probably the simplest method. You don't even need your spade. You have a 50 centimetre by 50 centimetre square with a bit of twine or shoelaces or whatever you have. Mark it out and put it on one of the target flowers. So that could be, for example, a buttercup. It could be a dandelion. It could be bramble. Just a patch of flowers. You open up the app, which is free to download, and you sit there for 10 minutes and you click every time you see a bee or a hoverfly or any other pollinator. And that data goes straight back to the Biodiversity Data Centre, and they use it for national monitoring of pollinators. That's a really fun one. It's one I hadn't done before this year. And if you're looking for mindfulness exercises, that's definitely up the top of them. It's really good, and it's amazing what you'll see for 10 minutes, how many insects are landing. And even if you don't see them, I suppose it's an indication, well, okay, well, maybe I need to do something a little bit different to try and increase pollinators on whatever area of land you have, whether it's a metre squared or whether it's thousands of hectares, you know.
And what are you going to do with all this data when you do get it, Fiona? Because you're going to make everybody in the country busy.
Yeah. So we will definitely be using it. So as I mentioned, the fit count data is going straight to the data centre. And then the rest of the data will be coming to Teagasc soil scientists and biodiversity researchers. And we'll be bringing it all together, getting an overall picture of the country, which we'll then be able to give back to the citizens so they know what the overall picture was. But there could be a whole range of other uses for this data. I was talking to a colleague who works in one of the forensic departments in the university, and they were quite interested in doing, for example, the underwear test, because it's of interest from a forensic perspective. So that's a data use that we had never envisioned at the start of the project, but just shows you what data sets like this can be very valuable in multiple ways.
Brilliant.
So we might see it on CSI yet.
You might indeed, Cathal. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Fiona, there's a lot going on over the next month, and you for years have been a huge advocate of soil health, and it's great. I know with the recent changes, I suppose, with the Commission, there's a big push on soil health, and there's traction. I suppose the tires are hitting the road now, so you're getting traction. But you have, I think you initially said to me you were going to do around Soil Health Week, you were going to do some events, but it's changed into almost a Soil Health Month for you, I think, has it?
Yeah, it's kind of snowballs, but I suppose it's a result of the interest we had in it. So we wanted to organise a Soil Health Week, a national campaign where we literally get the country talking about soils. So everywhere you look, there's going to be something about soils. So that was the week, and it is the week of the 22nd of September. As the week after the Ploughing Championship, and we are having a focused week on soils. but actually it's grown a little bit and it's moved across to most of September. We've events all over the place. So we're really inviting people to come out to those events. We'll have podcasts, we'll have webinars, we'll have a whole range of activities. We'll have videos going out, animated videos. Teagasc is leading this project, but we've also got great buy-in from our colleagues in the universities and other bodies which are involved in soils research. So they're also organising events. So it's, yeah, that week of the 22nd, we're going to try and get the country talking about soils, but we have a whole range of events. So for example, we're in on 13th and 14th of September, we're in Airfield Estate, who are a partner on this project, in Dundrum for the Harvest Festival there. We'll be at the National Ploughing Championships for 3 days. So if you're around, come and see us there. We'd really like to chat to people. Then on the 22nd of September, we have a Digging into Soil, Ask the Expert Q&A. So we have a panel of people, researchers, a farmer, a panel of people who are there to answer whatever soil questions you have, whether you're a school student or whether you're a farmer, whatever your soil question is, you can put that into the panel and we'll do our very best to answer it. So that's on the 22nd. Then we have a farm walk in Longford on the 23rd. There's an event in the Botanic Gardens in Dublin on the 23rd. We have a farm walk in Laois on the 25th, farm walk in Wicklow on the 26th. And then there's a practical workshop in Wexford Library on the 26th. And then there'll be another event in Cork the week after that, targeted at schools. We'll have school visits going in this as well. So yeah, there's plenty happening. So for anybody who's interested in soil, get out and come and see us or interact with us. You can join from your own house through webinars, or you can come out to events physically. So we'd be delighted, but we want to get the country talking about soil. So hashtag Soil Health Week, and you can post any photos or videos you have for anybody who's interested in soils.
Yeah, it's safe to say you're going to be busy for the next month, but we do wish you the very best luck in it. And this is a great project, GroundTruth. I've been a little bit involved and you've been telling us what's going on, and I know a lot of the underpants is probably in the ground at the moment and will be coming up soon to investigate how it's getting on. Some of the fit counts are probably done, and I know the earthworm counting is going on at the moment, and the VEST as well will be starting around now. Especially the rain is kind of coming to some parts of the country. The rest of the country had lots of rain, but anyway, so there's a lot happening now. And really looking forward to seeing the kind of results you're going to get off the back of it. And we'll have to get you back on again maybe next year when you have some results back, and hopefully tell us lots of good news and some messages that come out of the project as well. But just want to wish you and your team the very best luck, and we'll chat again soon, Fiona.
Thank you very much, Cathal and Deirdre. A pleasure, and yeah, we'll chat again soon.
So there you have it. Tune in next time to hear more interesting chats and discussion.
Myself and Deirdre will be back in 2 weeks' time, but do give us a review on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for listening to the Environment Edge podcast.